Hi, I'm Nick Kebble, the co-founder of our podcast Secure Insights, where we invite guests from cybersecurity companies around the globe to share their stories. This week's guest, I'm delighted to announce, is Nimmy Reichenberg, the CMO at Aim Security, based in the US. This podcast, we dive into a variety of different topics, covering things like the blind spots that GenAI introduces into the enterprise stack, along with the rise of shadow AI, why model-agnostic controls are critical, and how companies can secure RAG applications and stay ahead of the AI-driven compliance challenges that we're currently facing. So we've got a great conversation lined up, and I hope you enjoy it.
Perfect. Okay, so we're live. So I would have just kind of, like I said, run through a bit of an intro there. I wouldn't have given you any justice there. So would you be able to run through a little bit about kind of who you are, where you've come from, and really kind of what's got you to the position you are today?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Nimmy Reichenberg. I'm the CMO at Aim Security. I always say that I've been in cybersecurity so long that I did not start in cybersecurity. I think it was called InfoSec when I started, but I've been in cybersecurity for over 20 years. Different areas of cybersecurity, network security operations, security services, amongst other things. Um, I'm fairly new to AIM security, and the reason that I chose AIM is I think it combines two of the hottest trends that are out there, which is cybersecurity and, of course, AI. So I assume we're going to be talking a lot about securing AI and the challenges and what that involves, but that's what kind of brought me to AIM. Even from my relatively short amount of time here, securing AI is top three, often top one on the list of issues that CISOs deal with. It's a great space to be in.
I would say it's so relevant. I feel like every conversation you're having, even if it's not really a company that's kind of solely focused on AI, somehow the conversation kind of veers that way. So fantastic. We're definitely happy to, or excited, I should say, to get stuck into this one. You kind of mentioned it there, but I guess to start off this conversation, I think it's a good idea to kind of dive into a topic that maybe is keeping a lot of CISOs and security professionals in general kind of awake at night, and that's that Gen AI, or just AI in general, kind of security blind spot. Now, obviously, most enterprises do have kind of secure security stacks, but in what ways does Gen AI kind of create entirely new kind of risk vectors that maybe can slip past legacy tools?
Sure. So, first of all, I think in security, kind of things keep changing and the attack surface and kind of new attack surfaces come up. And every time that happens, you do see a new set of solutions with high degree of specialization in solving these new problems and new attack surfaces. Look no further than cloud, right? I mean, cloud computing came along and it gave way to a whole new wave of solution providers who specialized in cloud security and AI security, if anything, is bigger, better, faster, more challenging in terms of the security challenges that it poses. Before we even talk about some specific risks, I also maybe it's worth kind of spending a minute or two on taxonomy, because AI and Gen AI can mean so many different things. At least at AIM, we think about AI and therefore AI risks in terms of the AI that you use as an organization and the AI that you build as an organization. So AI that you use is fairly straightforward. It's, what are my employees doing? Are they, what AI tools are they using? What are they doing within those tools? So, who's using ChatGPT? Probably many of them.
Yeah.
What are they doing on ChatGPT? Probably many things that I, as an organization, would not approve, right? So that's kind of the securing and having visibility and governance over AI usage. And the second thing is securing the AI that you use, that you build. And that is, many organizations, of course, now are in some sort of process of building AI-powered applications, whether it's for internal use or for external use. Probably maybe the most common one is, we're building an AI-powered chatbot for customer service, for example,
Yeah.
right? And that introduces some similar, but some different concerns when it comes to the AI you build. And to make things even more fun, when we talk about both use and build, we can talk about AI applications, but also increasingly AI agents, right? So we will talk about all of those. So now that we've got the taxonomy laid out,
Yeah.
let's briefly kind of highlight the risks and why AI introduces new risks that legacy tools are not really equipped to address very well. So I'd say the first thing is securing Gen AI is essentially securing a conversation, right? And the whole concept of a conversation was something that is new to security. We're not really used to securing conversations. And there's I talk with a or I converse with an AI chatbot, and some of the conversation may be legitimate, then some of it may not be legitimate according to whatever policy the organization is defined. A lot of it is context based. So the whole concept of securing a conversation is new and also lends itself to new type of attacks, like prompt injection, for example, right? Which is just a new attack and requires new skills and new specializations if you're a security solution provider that wants to address these. I'd say the second thing is just the non-deterministic nature of AI. I'll even rewind. The second thing is the non-deterministic nature of AI. So we've all seen this. We can ask a, a solution like ChatGPT the same question 3 times and we'll get completely different answers based on
Yeah.
context, based on multiple factors. So again, in traditional security, right, you want to protect yourself from a piece of malware, that executable will run and try to do bad stuff in a pretty deterministic way, right? Whereas again, with AI, it's just so non-deterministic. It will do different things, even in the same scenario, it will do different things, and that makes securing it more challenging. And I'd say the third thing when it comes to AI agents, it's not just the input and the output of a conversation. AI agents now go and access other systems and execute things on other systems, again, in a non-deterministic way.
Yeah.
They decide in real time what systems they want to access, what they're going to do. And now you're not just getting responses that may introduce security risks. You have agents doing things on your behalf. So that introduces a whole slew of new risks. So in summary, I think AI is a new attack surface with just completely new ways of thinking about how to secure it.
And I guess these kind of more legacy tools were never kind of created to actually weather these kind of attacks, because however long ago, years, even months ago, they're going to miss stuff kind of in the AI and agentic AI and Gen AI kind of space, because it wasn't kind of created, I guess, to weather those threats. So I guess building upon that, why are these traditional tools like DLP and SASE and everything like that kind of falling short?
Yeah, so I think every legacy tool has roots. If you think about a solution like SASE or a CASB, in essence, they are network security solutions, right? And they do a
Yeah.
good job solving network security problems. But AI, like we've established, inherently is not a network security, it's not a network challenge, right? So again, if all you want to do is understand when somebody's typing chatgpt.com in their browser and block it, then sure, a network solution like a SASE can do that. But typically, we see organization wanting and needing a lot more. So it's not just identifying AI applications and blocking or allowing them. You really want to be governing the interactions, right? Understanding what users are prompting and being able to intercept that and apply a policy on that. So if somebody is prompting something that's against the company policy, I actually want to audit it, block it, and same for the output that is returned by the LLM. So again, inherently, it's not a network problem. And I'll even say, I think it generally is a backdrop for our conversation. AI security requires specialization. Even understanding
Yeah.
is something in AI applications at the network level is not easy. At AIM, since this is all we do, we've got a dedicated team that continuously maps applications, AI powered applications. It's in the thousands. So we see a lot of these traditional tools even misclassify or miscategorize applications in AI. And like most things in life, once you get deep into the weeds, it gets complicated. I'll ask you a question. Is Microsoft Word an AI application? What would you say?
I mean, I would say no, but
And you're probably right.
Yeah.
However, if you've used Microsoft Word recently,
Mhm.
Copilot is embedded into
Yeah.
Microsoft Word, right? So you've got, you do have Copilot inside of Microsoft
Mhm.
Word. And okay, do you want to govern that? Are you okay with users asking, asking
Mhm.
Copilot anything and everything? So even and we call those applications embedded AI, right? I mean, yes,
Mhm.
Microsoft Word is not an AI application, but it
Yeah.
does have embedded AI capabilities, which you can find increasingly in almost every application.
Mhm.
So what do you want to do with that? Do you want to enforce a policy on
Mhm.
that or not? So again, once you get into the weeds, there's a lot of specialization of even how you categorize AI applications, let
Mhm.
alone enforce a policy and introduce governance on it.
And we'll get into kind of, I guess, a lot about policies and regulations kind of further on, I guess, in this conversation. And I know it's early on kind of in this podcast, but for me, and I think because AI is obviously a new concept, and thinking about Gen AI, and then of course agentic AI is what in the last year or so really come about. And it might be a really hard question I'm about to ask, but do you think it's something that executives or kind of leadership should be more concerned about than kind of traditional security threats and security attacks, because it is so kind of, I guess, unstructured?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly see pressure on CISOs coming even at the board level to
Hmm.
secure AI. Because if you think about even companies' board of directors, when they think about AI, they think about it on kind of two different axes. First of all, they're going to the CIO and
Hmm.
saying to him or her, "We need to leverage AI to become competitive because if we don't, leverage AI in our product offerings." Again, we're going to fall behind. So there's pressure on, let's say, at the CIO level to leverage AI for
Hmm.
increased productivity and increased competitiveness. And then, of course, they turn to the CISO and say to him or her, we need to make sure this is secure, right?
Hmm.
And I think one thing that's very different about AI in general, but also when it comes to security, is the speed with which everything happens. So,
Yeah.
I've been doing cybersecurity for a long
Hmm.
time. I remember when cloud came along, a lot of companies, took actually started deploying
Hmm.
things in the cloud. And I know conservative organization like banks, even 10 years after AWS came along, they're still, yes, we're still evaluating this. We're not moving production workloads to the cloud. And
Hmm.
you had time. With AI, there is just no time. There is not a CISO on the planet that can tell their leadership, yeah, give us another 3 to 5 years to figure out how we secure AI, right? Or 10 years.
Hmm.
Everything's happened so fast. There's
Yeah.
incredible pressure to adopt AI. So the speed with which, and it's still changing, by the
Hmm.
day. So the speed with which it's not only do you need to secure it, like the sense of urgency that companies are feeling out there is very high.
Yeah, because I think even like on like a basic level, I know when I was even at university and kind of ChatGPT came out and everyone was kind of utilizing it and throwing so much information in, and I feel like you kind of get on a bit of a craze of it's going to really help me, but then you kind of forget about the security behind it, and kind of you're giving it all this information, and then actually when you implement it into companies, vendors and organizations, there's policies that need to be implemented, there's some regulations there, like it's actually, I think when you kind of take a step back and you're not in the security world, you don't even think about this kind of stuff, and then yeah, even just having a conversation now, you're touching upon points that I've never even thought of. So um it's interesting. Yeah, really
Yeah, and
interesting.
for sure, I think for the average user, productivity will always trump
Hmm.
security, right? If you
Yeah.
if you can say, hey, would you like to connect this thing to your email or
Hmm.
Google Drive to to for more sure, right? You click a
Yeah.
button, and like I said, before you know it, now this LLM has access to enormous amounts of data, right? So I think when it comes
Hmm.
to users, productivity will always trump security, and the thankless job of the security organization is to make sure that you are still putting in
Safe.
governance and good security guardrails
Yeah.
while enabling this productivity for your
Hmm.
organization.
Fantastic. Well, kind of thank you for running through all of that. And obviously, we've discussed kind of how Gen AI threats are fundamentally kind of, I guess, they are different from those traditional kind of security concerns because it is emerging so much. It's harder to see, control, kind of everything that we've previously, I guess, discussed. one example is, of course, shadow AI. I feel like it's coming up constantly. There's LinkedIn posts about it. It's in the news. Now with tools like ChatGPT, like we've just been kind of discussing, popping up in organizations. What does shadow AI look like in practice? And I guess what risk could really be created?
Sure. So when we work with customers, oftentimes the number one use case is let's just get visibility
Hmm.
into shadow AI, especially organizations that decided not to kind of block all things AI and were a little more lenient. They want to get visibility on shadow AI. It's not uncommon to see hundreds and hundreds of applications being used. Of course, it depends on the nature of the business and its size, but hundreds, sometimes even thousands of AI applications that are being used. And then you can also try to see what people are actually putting into those prompts, by the way.
Wow.
One interesting and common prompt that you see that people love to ask is how much their boss is making, right? So,
No,
yes, it's a human
I'll
human
try that
human
one.
curiosity, yeah. And see, I mean, especially if the AI is connected to, all these company
Mm,
systems, maybe it was also trained on, on the salary information
yeah.
in the organization. So you do see a lot of shadow AI. You do see, speaking of like legacy vendors,
Mhm.
you do see users trying to bypass protections. If the protections
Wow.
aren't really good, oh, you're blocking it on this browser. Maybe if I use another browser,
Mhm.
I can access it, right? So you do see employees trying to bypass protections if they're very poorly constructed and
Mhm.
employees can bypass them. You do see that. Um, so um, again, there's a lot to mind, but like it's not all gloom and doom. I think when you start to um, see what users are actually using and how they're using these AI
Mhm.
tools, you can actually gain a lot of insights that
Yeah.
will help you as a CISO, which is a great position to be, not just be like the blocker,
Mhm.
but help you accelerate AI usage because you understand use case. And I'll tell you an interesting story from one of our
Wow.
customers. They're a technology company, so their number
Mhm.
one use case was actually to enable their developers to use, Cursor and all these kind of coding productivity tools. But they
Mhm.
did deploy AIM and had visibility on how their organization was using AI. And they discovered that actually a lot of people are using AI for HR related purposes. A lot of people were asking AI to scan resumes, for example, or to conduct performance reviews and things of that nature.
Wow.
So, they had one use case in mind, but through this observability that was provided by AIM, they realized that there's a strong need for a different use case, and then said, okay, so clearly the need is there. What
Mhm.
applications are we allowing for AI powered? What's acceptable use, what
Mhm.
not acceptable use. So let's enforce that. So I think through visibility, it's not just, oh, let's see all the bad stuff that people are doing and
Yeah.
block it. You actually get a better understanding of use cases. And you as a CISO can now be in a position to show the organization how you can accelerate AI
Mhm.
adoption, which is a great place to be in.
Fantastic. I was about to kind of ask you, I guess, how do these companies kind of govern the risk? But it sounds like a lot of them are kind of adopting it, kind of like you said there, seeing the visibility to be able to kind of manage the AI use, but also like using your words, kind of accelerate it. I guess kind of taking it back a step though, if you were thinking about the risks, what are companies kind of doing about that? Is it just kind of immediately block, or is there any other way to kind of mitigate against the threats?
Yeah, so most companies start by either blocking, right?
Hmm.
And again, that's if you just block everything, that is quickly becoming an unsustainable policy because the
Yeah.
pressure to adopt AI for the productivity gains and all the benefits it's provide is getting higher. But most companies either start by blocking or allowing, right? As they get more mature and deploy technology that can, help them become more granular, then the policy evolves. So you don't have to just block or adopt. You can even you can decide what tools you're blocking, what tools you're allowing. For ChatGPT, for example, a common use case is, yes, let's block use of personal ChatGPT, but we're okay with people using our enterprise license for ChatGPT because with ChatGPT Enterprise, the data that your employees upload does not train the model, right? So that's kind of a common use case. But then again, you can decide that for some tools, you're going to pop up like acceptable use terms that the employee has to accept. So you can kind of be in this acceptance mode. But more importantly, you can now decide and set sorry, then create a policy and enforce a policy that governs AI usage. So it can be from things that are trivial that we typically provide out of the box. For example, no hate speech, I don't know, no adult content, that sort of stuff, no PII, things like that, to policies that are specific to your organization. So just a theoretical example, not from AIM. If you're Coca-Cola and you don't want anybody uploading the secret recipe for a Coca-Cola into any of these AI tools, you can enforce that policy and push it out. And then again, that will get blocked if somebody tries to, prompt anything that's related. And of course, we use an LLM to understand context as well. If
Yeah.
somebody tries to prompt an LLM with confidential information that is specific to your organization, products like AIM will identify that, will block it and alert on it, etc. So you can now get pretty granular, not just on what you're
I bet.
blocking and allowing, but also what is my policy for interacting with the LLM.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for kind of running it through that. And I know you've kind of in that conversation and prior with the like case study, or you kind of ran through, you kind of spoke about AIM a little bit more specifically. But I think it'll be good to kind of, I guess, understand it a little bit more to that kind of granular detail. How quickly are kind of, I guess, security teams really going from kind of zero visibility to like full insight using AIM's platform?
Yeah, so if the visibility aspect is super quick, a few days of monitoring your network, you should have a good idea of what people are using, how they're using it. So that's pretty quick. What can take time, and it depends on the organization, is okay. Now it's deciding on what the acceptable policy is and how you want to govern AI usage, and that's not a technical challenge per se, right? It is something that the AI governance board and all the AI steering committees have to decide, and then it's a matter of just using technology to enforce it. But the visibility is super quick. Within a few days, you should get good insights on how your existing users are using AI in your organization.
I guess kind of the follow-up question to that then is about scope. I guess it's focusing like controls just on kind of one module in particular, or just being really specific with it. Is it kind of too narrow for some organizations?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about cloud computing. I think there's parallels here
Yeah.
where you typically don't put all your eggs on one basket. So if you think about cloud computing, very few organizations are standardized on a single cloud provider. They have like a multi-cloud environment. The same is true for AI for many reasons. By the way, also the AI models are very good at different things. So even when I
Yeah.
look at what I use, there's use cases where I love using ChatGPT for, and then use cases that I love using Claude for because they're so much better. So I think having and I'm not even going kind of beyond the big LLM chatbots into more specific applications like we talked about. I don't know, Cursor for engineering, and of course there's applications for every function. So I think you're going to see something that you saw in cloud computing, where you need a multi-model
Yeah.
kind of solution. And for the most part, by the way, most of the policies that you want to enforce are multi-model. So again, if you're an organization and you don't want trade secrets leaked out, you probably don't want them where the people are using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Perplexity. So the ability to define the policy in one central place and make sure that it's enforced on whatever LLMs you use, of course, is very powerful.
And I guess that gives you that kind of broader oversight as well, because you're kind of implementing different AI platforms and products, and kind of increasingly using more tools and AI tools. And it feels like every day, every month, there's something different that's kind of coming out. So you're adopting that, I guess, consistently as well. And I guess ensuring that you've kind of got that, I think, kind of described as like a model agnostic visibility as well, and enforcement. It is so important, but it does obviously kind of raise other challenges as well as enterprises kind of start building like RAG-based apps and AI agents. What other kind of security holes might they be unintentionally kind of creating?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think up until now we focused mostly on AI usage.
Hmm.
Maybe let's talk about the AI that you build. Like we said, a lot of companies are in various stages of building their own
Hmm.
LLM based applications. So I think the number one, there's a couple of different challenges there from usage. I think the number one challenge is more of a kind of software supply chain challenge of making sure that the models you use are secure. So um, almost every organization that builds these LLM powered applications don't build their own LLM from scratch, right? Like it's like,
Hmm.
it's software engineering 101. You typically leverage an existing LLM, whether it's a commercial one or an open source one. So you take something existing and then you tweak it and train it for your need, right? And then you're getting into the software supply chain problem of, can I trust this LLM this open source LLM that I'm using? Is it
Hmm.
secure? You kind of need to scan it. And again, there's specialization. It's different than scanning kind of static libraries, and there's a lot of vendors that specialize in that. But the whole, what AI software components am I using, and are they secure? That's challenge number one. I guess challenge number two is configuration. So the world does not need another security posture management, but definitely AI SPM is a thing, right? Well, we
Hmm.
look at things like, are you configuring everything securely and not creating potential security vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit through wrong configuration? And then the third aspect of securing your own applications is runtime control. So
Hmm.
things like prompt injection and jailbreaking are your responsibility when it's your own application. So when you use ChatGPT, it's ChatGPT's responsibility to make sure that nobody can use prompt injection to hack into that application. But when I'm building my own application, it is now my responsibility to secure it. And again, this is a, like we said previously, very specialized knowledge. So
Yeah.
hopefully you're using somebody who understands runtime security challenges of AI and can protect you with kind of like an AI firewall, if you will, protect you from all these runtime threats that can happen.
Fantastic. So I guess understanding the kind of kinds of security holes that enterprises um, can really open leads really well into the next question, I guess, about how does AIM specifically kind of stay ahead. So I guess talking about AIM Labs. Now, I've obviously done some research on this, but for people that are kind of listening, maybe don't know much about it, why does the company, I guess, invest in such deep kind of offensive research? Like I think it's EchoLeak.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
we could. Yeah, so we're super proud of AIM Labs.
Hmm.
We have got some freakishly smart security researchers. You can imagine people that with really just
Yeah.
unbelievable AI knowledge are not
Hmm.
easy to find. And again, we're fortunate to have brilliant researchers at AIM Labs. I mean, at its core, if you understand how an attacker thinks and operates and how he may attack AI models, that ultimately makes you a better defender, right? So
Hmm.
that's of course the reason why we keep the research labs. And you talked about EchoLeak, and we even which is a vulnerability we discovered. I think we published it about a month ago in
Yeah.
Microsoft Copilot, and I think that highlights just the how insecure AI agents are by their very nature, and how susceptible they are to attacks. And EchoLeak was basically a zero-click attack. What we have found is that by sending an email, let's say you're using Copilot, by sending you an email with poison data, so to speak, we can, and of course, if you've got Copilot, it scans your emails and just
Yeah.
that data. We can actually, without you having to do anything, I'm just sending you an email, then Copilot that scanned that email, we can actually cause it to exfiltrate data, right? So without you having to do
Mhm.
anything, right? So yeah, again, very different than sending you an email and hoping that you will click on,
Click on it.
download a file or click
Mhm.
on anything. So it's a zero-click vulnerability. We've since published another vulnerability that's somewhat similar in Cursor, which we call Cursor-Cute. So, and of course, as you can expect, it's not just, hey, we found a vulnerability, which of course we follow responsible disclosure practices, and we let the vendor know, and we only publish it after the vendor issues a fix and a patch for it. But if the bigger picture is by understanding how you can compromise these AI applications and agents, we
Mhm.
then build the guardrails in our product to make sure that our customers are protected from these kinds of attacks.
So yeah, big shout out to the threat researchers there. How does
Yes.
then threat
If I want to feel like the dumbest person in the room, I just have a
go?
conversation with some of the researchers from AIM Labs. That's very easy. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. How does threat research then kind of feed into the product development and the customer feedback and everything like that?
Yeah. So, like I said, as I said, pretty much every finding by AIM Labs,
Mhm.
ultimately, it's not research for research's sake. So all these findings are then um, are translated into very cool product capabilities. Most of them are patent pending, that will, hey, here we discovered something bad that can happen, and now let's build the knowledge in the product to make
Mhm.
sure that it can protect against that, right? So that's ultimately why we keep AIM Labs, and again, we're super proud of the work that they do and how that manifests itself ultimately in our product.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving a good kind of insight on there. And I know there's a few kind of, like you said, kind of articles being posted, and we'll definitely kind of link it in our captions as well, so anyone can go and take a look. I guess to really end this conversation, I feel like we can't talk about, and I know we have been touching upon it kind of through this podcast, but we can't talk about AI security, anything like that, without kind of talking about the regulations and compliance that will inevitably be coming in. I guess when it comes to the AI specific regulations, any indication of when it's coming or how it's going to affect kind of what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So first of all, as with everything AI, things just change so quickly,
Yeah.
and that's also true of the regulatory landscape. I'd probably say the most advanced piece of regulation right now, as it often is, comes from the European Union. So there's the EU AI Act that
Mm.
has very specific requirements of what you need to document and what you can deploy and what you cannot deploy.
Mhm.
And I believe on August 2nd, there was a milestone where the governance board became operational, and you already need to have some documentation in place. And I believe August 2nd of next year is when the enforcement kind of kicks in with at least the possibility to issue some very, very heavy fines on organizations that don't
Wow.
comply. Time will tell. So the possibility is there.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm holding my breath that on August 2nd, companies will be hit on with tens and hundreds of millions of fines,
Mm.
but the possibility is there. So we know from working with our customers that organizations take it very seriously. So that's on the EU AI Act. The US is starting to issue some executive orders, but again, everything is changing quickly. But I think one thing is clear: even though regulation typically lags technology, it is coming to AI, and rightly so. So
Mhm.
part of what organizations will need to do, of course, we will need to do as a solution provider, is make compliance as easy as we possibly can,
Yeah.
because it's definitely something that organizations will have to follow and adhere to very carefully.
As I say, you touched upon an interesting point there. With anything kind of in AI, it's how do you regulate it when it's constantly kind of changing and evolving, and something that may have been super relevant last week could be completely different now. So I think it'll be interesting kind of watching the space over the next even 6 months to 12 months to see kind of what really happens and what does actually get enforced. Because again, it could change in the next year. You don't know.
Yeah, again, the only constant thing about AI is change, So
Yeah.
we've been AIM has been in business for just over 3 years, which is not a long time, but that's about
Mhm.
how long ChatGPT has been around. So
Yeah.
nobody's got 10 years of experience in generative AI because it hasn't existed that long. And even if you would have um, come to us, I don't know, 6 9 months ago, the MCP servers, I have to check exactly when they're went out, right? And now it's
Mm.
like the number one AI risk everybody wants to talk about, and it's only it's measured in months. So One thing that I can guarantee is that things will change and there will be new threats and new technologies, AI-related technologies that we'll have to defend against, and new regulations. We're not always sure what those are, but you can count on things changing quickly with AI. I think that's the only thing that's dependable right now.
Change and excitement
Yes.
to see kind of what happens as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, well, look,
absolutely. I think
yeah,
I think that's essentially, well, now we're in cybersecurity and we like tech security and threats, but I think make no mistake that AI is just such transformative technology that will completely change how business work and operate. So I think securing that transformation is something that we're very excited about. So I think ultimately it is about ensuring that organizations can transform their business and become more productive and more competitive with AI, and security is one of the things that you have to do to be part of that. But I think that's the exciting things about being on this intersection of cybersecurity and AI.
100%. Well, look, thank you so much for joining kind of me on this week's episode. I'll link kind of a load of parts to the website, to LinkedIn profiles. But if anyone does kind of want to, I guess, reach out to you directly, would you recommend kind of LinkedIn, or is there like an email that you'd prefer?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Nimmy Reichenberg on LinkedIn. Not a lot of, it's a rare enough name. You'll find me easily on LinkedIn. And of course, check us out at aim.security.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, like I said, I'll put a load of links in. And yeah, I really appreciate you kind of running through everything today. I'm excited to see kind of what the future of AI security is, but of course, with AIM.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, Rosie. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.